Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 20th, 2023 at approximately 4:24 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I personally live by and utilize to guide my own way of thinking. Now, with this in mind, before I get any further, we're going to start right off the bat with Shadow in with the gold. And Emmy, you are in with the silver today. Glad you guys could make it. Emmy, I literally have some good news for you. Finally got the ink for my printer. Every time I turned around the last couple of days, I got finished, my stream went down, and the place I had to go was already closed. Adam, you are in with the bronze. How you doing? So, Emmy, I have your copy of the newsletter coming out of Positive Perspectives in an envelope. Tomorrow morning, as soon as the post office gets open, I'll be able to go down and get it sent out, and it'll be on the way. Okay. Oh, and I might just well show you. No, I'm not going to show your address. Okay, your address is for somebody else to send out. But decided to do things a little differently. So that's the on the size envelope. The envelope is coming in. It'll come in flat. Well, from my end, it'll come in flat. From your end, I can't guarantee it. We are talking the Postal Service. But that's the size you're looking at. Okay. So, all in all, things are finally starting to move. And, the way I look at it, it's literally been a case of redesigning things and making sure they work out properly. And Eternity, welcome aboard. You come in with honorable mention. I agree with you, but unfortunately, I can't do a thing about that. But no, I figured I'd look at it today and go, okay, I keep telling you we are all connected. So I figured let's look at that and see what we can do with it. See if we can make it work a little better. Oh, I have to take that with me. So I've managed to get the office all sorted around. I've got everything moving in the right direction. Now it's a question of making sure it stays working that way. When I talk about us all being connected, we can go back to the start, back to Dave's show on Spaced Out Radio, where so many of you guys came forth and said, hey, get on the air, and see what, and start working on, independently. Well, it was that encouragement that started me 2 years ago. Well, we're now in July, so almost 2.5, right? March 6th of 2021 was when I first went on the, when I first did when I did my first video post. Okay, and it was because of that, and with that in mind, let's get this open. Copy that. We pop that in. This is the link to Dave's show. This is where it's not the first time I ever ended up on the air, but it was literally because of the people in Dave's chat room asking for me to get things moving that I did finally get around to getting the videos up. Then I turn around and I keep getting all this support from you guys, all these requests to get the information into book form. Okay, net result, Races of the Worlds was born. And I'm happy to say we are now in final. When I talk about final edit, we've got the pictures, we've got all the information. It's going to take some time to finish doing the final edit, but we found a way that the format is solid. But every time you guys do something, I see it in here, in our chat room here, where you guys are more like a functional family in a lot of ways, where I see a lot of support coming in amongst the people in the chat rooms. I'm gonna go, I'm having, I've got this question or this problem, and somebody in the chat room almost certainly is going to pipe up and go, here's an answer, maybe I can help you on this. This is what I'm referring to about us all being connected. Okay, now here I am, and we've got the live stream going, and it's working out. I've got no interest in closing it down anymore. I did go through a rough period where I really debated it a lot. At this point, I'm not debating it at all. Okay, now I know Shadow is in the room, and with that in mind, this is the link to Shadow's live stream. Okay, so absolutely, drop in, have a listen to what he has to say. If you like what he has to say, give him a thumbs up, and do subscribe to his channel. Okay, same applies here. If you like the stream here, how about giving us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and then turn around and share the daylights out of it. Okay, I've got very big plans for this, and as one person put it yesterday, and I forget exactly who put it that way. Okay, as one person put it yesterday, we're already global. I barely got the newsletter up and running, and it went global like that. Okay, I intend on making it a whole lot bigger, reaching a whole lot more people, and helping to set things in motion to make this a much brighter future for all of us, if at all possible. Now, do understand, all of us can put all the effort into this that we desire, and we can put the information out there, but it's up to you as individuals to pick up the tools that are offered and go, okay, I'm going to work with them. That's your guys' department. Okay, so I mean, all in all, there we are. All in all, we could focus on the negative side of things, or we could focus on the positive. It's up to you guys. Okay, well, no, it's not. You guys can focus on what you will. I refuse to focus on the negative side. Okay. Cowie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, let me see here. I gotta see. Oh, I gotta go through that. I've got my list in my paper here that I keep a list on. And today, I'm looking at it this way. I've got a whole pile of things I'm working on getting done, but I've got to make certain that everything is running properly. Yeah, it's called Itchy Ear. I'm looking at it from this standpoint. The more focused we get on the positive outcomes, on the positive things, okay, the more likely we are to co-create a world that is so much better than what we're being warned about. There's a lot of magazines, a lot of news outlets that will sit there and tell you, we are doomed. The world's going to end. Well, the world is going to end. They got that right. Oh, Nathan, how you doing? And Nathan has just entered the room here. So, this is the link to Nathan's show. And again, now his show, as you'll see in half a second here, comes on Saturdays at 9 p.m. Central. Okay, drop in, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, absolutely subscribe to his channel. Give him a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share the daylights out of it. Everything you do, whether it is a positive thing or a negative thing, that is what you're stacking the deck in favor of. It doesn't guarantee your life will go well, but it does stack the deck. Now, what I'm looking at here, how about if we pull that over where it belongs? And did I get that confirmed yet? I'm not sure, so let's find out. No, haven't got that confirmed, but assuming Raven pops in, we will get confirmed. Raven asked if we could postpone because there's no way of knowing for certain she'll have her computer up and running tomorrow. Okay, so what I'm looking at is we have a choice. Each one of you individually has a choice. You can focus on how you got to where you are. I'm absolutely certain you've all had hiccups, you've all had hindrances that have been annoying to say the least. Okay, Lord knows I have. Now, what do I got here? We're on, so today is the 20th. Yeah, managed to get to bed last night at midnight and then decided I slept enough at 4.5 hours. I had 4:30 this morning. I was up and on the go. But it boils down to this. If you've got something to work with, okay, now who here has a goal that you haven't realized yet? Even if you had a goal, let's say you desired to have something up and running by the time you were 20 and you're now over 20. Okay, this means you've still got a goal that can be attained. But it really boils down to whether or not you put the effort into it. But this is why I keep coming back with what can you work with? Okay. Now I could look at all the setbacks that I've had in my life. You can look at all the setbacks you have. Couple of things that are just absolutely the same for everybody. No matter what you've been through, you are currently right here, right now. And I do require that. Holy mackerel. I don't recall. I mean, I can look it up, but it was better than a month ago. I slept that long, Adam. It's kind of funny in some ways. A lot of people require sleep. I'm not the one to set the stage. Okay, so I can tell people, do not try keeping and do not try matching pace with the amount of operating time I've got. Okay, some people require sleep, and I will tell you, Adam, I'd rather personally you were well rested. Okay, and that you were well rested, and before you get behind the wheel, then like some of those geniuses out there that I see the way they drive, I'm going like, and you're still holding a license? This is not a good sign. Some of them absolutely are. Okay, and I know, Henry's going, truckers are crazy. Some of them absolutely. And, I know in the, long ago, truckers used to have their own call signs that they'd always use, which made it sound really neat. I was actually looking for an old movie called Convoy. Right, that movie still stands out in my head as a phenomenal movie. And again, it focused around truckers. Maximum Overdrive, that was a bit strange. But whatever you're working on, the more connected we are with each other, the better off we are. Oh, there we go. Adam's gone. Adam is going. When my CB is on, I go by Mongoose. As in Mongoose, as in Top Gun. Or at least that's Nathan's just going. Nathan goes, I learned of a meditation method that lets you not sleep, but it takes a lot of constant discipline. It was part of the Buddhist studies I did. It really was, Shadow. It was one of those movies that just stuck out in my mind, and one of the few that I'd love to track down again. But thus far, I've had no luck. Neat part of it was, not only was it a good movie, but in my opinion, it had a great soundtrack, and that's saying a lot. So I've got, there is an entire, in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, I've actually got an entire group of truckers running together that literally go by the handle the Bully Brigade. Okay, and then this is a crew of them in the it's a crew of them that are still operational in the post-apocalyptic world in which the Yldrbacian Chronicles are set. Philip, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I mean, I'm looking at this going, the more connected we are, the better off we are. Okay, because once we all get on the page that says, no matter how you got to where you are, you're still right here, right now. As it said in Mad Max, right? The original Mad Max, it was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Wherever you go, there you are, which pretty much says it all. I'm going to have to track it down there, Adam. I just won't go looking for it right now for one weird reason or another. Okay. But, in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, and I think I'll do that. As a matter of fact, I know I'll do that. Like the July edition is out already. Okay. The August edition, which will be coming out which will be coming out on the 17th of July. The reason I do that is so when I'm sending out a hard copy to people, it still has the opportunity to get there in time. Shade, how you doing? Glad, yeah, no doubt. Shade's going, break the deal, face the wheel. Oh no. In all fairness, Philip, the Bully Brigade are a group of truckers. The reason they're called the Bully Brigade is because they step in on people that are bullying others. They are an anti-bully crew. I mean, yeah, they drive big rigs. And rest assured, some of the rigs, and this is what I'm going to include in the August edition, but here's a preview for you. Jeremiah, okay. Now Jeremiah is the lead character, but before the apocalypse happened, before the collapse of civilization hit. Oh, Shade. Apologies are not necessary. Clearly, you missed something here. Whatever is going on, this is not called distraction. In this chat room, cross chatter and topics that come up that are not actually being talked about are not offensive. As a matter of fact, if you've got a question, absolutely put the question in all caps, either in all caps or part of it in all caps, or take that little hand that waves back and forth, put that up so I can spot the question. But there is no necessary, you have no reason to apologize for distracting people. Rest assured, we get distracted really, really easy. But no, Jeremiah Wolfstrom, who is the head of the wolf pack, before the apocalypse happens, he used to drive a beef train. Okay. And in all fairness, I'm not entirely certain. I figured that I picked out what cab he's using. Okay, which is something I really should, but I haven't written it in yet. But he is one of them. Then we have Hammer, who is another chap that runs a big rig. But Hammer uses, I don't know I've still got to look for which vehicles are which. I believe he's running an international, but I don't know all the different names available yet. But whatever it is, his big rig, his rig has a flat nose. Okay, it's just flat off. And I know that the international is flat. So Hammer is one of them. Then we have Limpet. Now, Limpet is a wonderful little lass, but she is also a mech. Okay. But the guy that you're going to like, well, that some of you may like, is there is a chap in there by the name of Hablog. Now, Hablong is a half giant. Okay. And his rig is called the Ogre. Okay. And for a good reason. The door to his sleeper unit is 9 feet tall and 5 feet wide. As you can well imagine, we're dealing with a big rig. But these guys are literally a crew that comes in, and we're just introducing one, a new chap that I just brought in that runs, and I don't know the exact rig. I know in the case of Limpet runs a Kenworth. Okay. Then you have the Tarmac Terror, which is a 40-foot long bed. It's a 40-foot flatbed with 8 pintle mount 50 caliber machine guns attached. Okay. But it runs on metal wheels, metal cleated wheels, like you see down at the industrial tracks, at the industrial sites. Great big metal wheels. But their vehicle is painted camouflage, purple, mauve, and pink. Okay. Now you can well imagine what kind of a noise level that makes. Okay. Uh-oh. Well, yeah, the cleated wheels are used for running on ice, or they're also used for running on sandbank. Okay. In the big strip mines, they use, like the Terex Titan, for instance, although it doesn't run on metal wheels, vehicles that size. But the one that is being run by a chap that I'm just introducing is called Torpedo. Okay, his name is Torpedo. So I mean, yeah, the Bully Brigade does show up on a regular basis. So I've got, running through this series, you got the Wolf Pack, which is a whole pile of mismatched individuals, many of them essentially misfits. The Bully Brigade is, quite frankly, a set of rig runners. Okay. And then we have, of course, the gaming crew. Okay. And those are actually people that are playing Dungeons and Dragons in the middle of a post-apocalyptic war. Okay. Henry's just adding, he goes, to quote a certain fellow in this chat room, it's all quantum. I think that would be an absolutely fantastic idea there, Adam, because I certainly will not be done the Return to Paradise by the time you get here. Okay, and much more importantly, it's actually, those rigs are going to be very necessary when it comes to the actually book 8 and book 9 is where it's really going to become important. I mean, it might start as early as book 7, but I just don't know yet. But having things set up ahead of time is extremely what I require, what I do. The nice little part about it, from my standpoint, is this: I take little bits and pieces. I literally, one of the people that I met in person was an MMA fighter. Okay, well, she is striving to be a full blown, and she's striving to be a superstar. But I actually got a signed waiver for her, where I can use her MMA line, her MMA name, in writing in the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay, it was the first time I'd ever asked anybody for permission to do that. Okay. Wendy Williams, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So this is all, and it's literally things like talking to people and going, like, in this case, Adam, you're going, I can probably help you with truck names and what have you. As well, probably not just the names, but the different rigs that suit best. Okay. Which you're wondering what we can talk about? Well, that's just one of those topics that works. No, all my figures are up front. I really should get used to having some of those down here because they're all up front at this point. But this is what I mean. I take my real life, which sounds absolutely bizarre, but you got to realize a lot of the events that take place in the books are drawn from memories of things I've gone through at different lifetimes or events that I've borne witness to. Okay. Or people many of the characters that I add are people that they're based on people I've personally run into and the attitudes and the way they carry themselves, sort of thing. I don't know why I did that. Look at that. My lights are all burnt out. Although I did find out the other day, I was going through a bunch of bins of mine and what have you, and I finally found the marbles I lost. MMA. I'm thinking. Let me think if I can remember rightly. I think it's a car. I think Taekwondo is part of it, but there's something else. I'd have to go back and look at it. But yeah, she is. What her name is her street name, like her ring name is Sweet Maria. Okay, I don't think I think all of the t-shirts I bought of hers are now pretty much worn out because of the way they were done. You know, but yeah, Sweet Maria, she should be playing. She should be up. I don't know what day. I'm still waiting for a lead in on that. Okay, are you? Football's asking, are you able to speak on the Titanic sub? They won't even let me on the Titanic sub. Oh, I presume you're referring to the fact that they're looking into what went down with the Titanic. The Titanic, I didn't exactly do a whole lot of research on it, but I did have a lot of conversations with a number of people that were actually on it when it sank, which was really kind of an interesting thing. Now, depending on what the answer is, am I willing to talk about my opinion on it, what I do know of it? The answer is yeah. You know, from my standpoint, it really boils down to this. The Titanic was, the stupid part, and I kid you not, as far as I understand it, that's terrible, Philip. You do realize where they parked the Titanic afterwards. But ultimately it really was. But I can't prove this one because I haven't done the research myself. But apparently my ancestor I had in my ancestor, Mr. Andrews, that actually designed the Titanic, built it. It would have been unsinkable. But from what I gather, when the construction started on it, they tried saving money. So instead of sealing the bulkheads completely, they left the bulkheads with 4 feet of room at the top. Had the bulkheads been sealed, the thing never would have sunk. Many of the people that were lost at sea that day it was a horrendous tragedy, but it really showed which people were decent. Okay. But I do agree with the comment that it was a little crap for millionaires. Okay. Unfortunately, society at that time said, let's put all the rich people on the top deck. And then they jammed the bottom deck with other people. What they didn't do was they didn't put enough lifeboats on board. Okay. The sad part is what also was proven that day was when it went down, then because they didn't have enough lifeboats, they locked a lot of the poor people in the bottom. Okay. And I mean, it was just absolutely an horrendous setup. I've talked to a few people alive today that remember being on the Titanic when it went down. And it's real because of the panic they go through every time they see it. Where are we? Football goes, you have to pay 250,000 to view the Titanic wreck. I've seen enough wrecks, and I don't go swimming, first of all. But I've seen enough wrecks. I don't have to spend $250,000 to go underwater. Okay. In my personal opinion, it sank. There's a lot of people that died down there. Leave them rest. Okay, that's not the way it's going to go. But they're never going to figure out exactly what went wrong, in all likelihood, or at least they're not going to likely make it public. But I will tell you this. When the bulkheads were not sealed, that was where the biggest problem came in. And it was millionaires going, I want to make a lot of money. Let's get this in the ocean. We'll cut corners here. So instead of having a ship that can make multiple trips back and forth safely across the Atlantic, they turned around and made a great big funeral barge. Okay, now and I don't know if this is what happened. It may have been artistic license, where they had the musicians still playing as the Titanic sank. Philip goes, wise sages say, never cut corners on safety to save money. It'll cost more in the long run. I absolutely agree. This is one of the reasons why the books I'm putting out are not being put out incomplete, if you will. I'm putting them out as best I can. Oh, speaking of which, where is it? Should be right here. Get that out of the way before I bend it. It can go right here. But speaking of books in print and what have you, this little box here that I'm pulling up, just picked it up today. This is fresh out of the printer today. Okay, told you I was waiting for it to come in. So, just got that today, and for a better look at it, that's this one here. I've shown you this before. That's now in print, in stock. But no, with the Titanic, the fact of the matter is that first of all, they cut corners on the bulkheads. Worked out well. They got themselves a huge funeral barge. Well, Philip, yeah, okay, that's true. That's terrible. Philip goes, every funeral begins with fun, and that's actually every funeral. But the way he wrote it is funeral. And then he goes, cue the song from Life of Brian. Oh, is that what it's based on? I knew there was a new Indiana Jones movie coming out. I haven't looked into it. I do intend on seeing it. In all fairness, I've tried a lot of different ways. I actually didn't get trapped underwater. I did end up drowning underwater. That was fun. Not. But, I do know there was an accident a long time ago. I think it was during World War II. That there was a battleship that was sank with 1,300 some odd people going into the water. I think there were 8 that came out because they got taken out by a complete swarm of sharks. I forget what the name of the show was, but I'll tell you, talk about a rough way to go. Drowning is kind of a pain in the neck, really hard on the lungs. But, from my standpoint, the best way to go, and I've tried a lot of them, the best way to go that I've come across is CO2, is lack of oxygen when it's slowly removed. Okay, you just quietly go to sleep, and that's the end of that. I don't recommend dying, by the way. Done it a lot, not a real fun thing. And I tell you, it takes forever to get your head back on straight. But no, the Titanic itself, they didn't put enough lifeboats on it, and many of the lifeboats took off with like 8 people in them. Absolutely, there are. Now, some of them do it quite by accident. Football's going, are there creatures in the water that drown humans? Yeah, Philip's going, being abducted and slowly killed by a sadistic serial killer is one of the worst deaths that I can imagine. I can paint some other ones, but no, regarding creatures that drown humans. Okay, there's a few of them that do it. Way, way, way back when the sea elephant started coming to the surface and started trying to make contact, they had a little bit of a run. They would kidnap a human, but they didn't clue in to start with. I'm going to bounce back to that in half a second. Nathan has said, I read somewhere that the Titanic going down was a hit job on some bankers by bigger bankers. Tell you what, the moment you figure out which bankers can control the flow of ice, that's great. But it was an iceberg that took the Titanic. And as far as I'm aware, much as the bankers control a lot of things, I don't think that's one of them. But no, as far as creatures that will drown people, the sea elephant, when they first tried to get to understand humans, they'd abduct them. Now, bear in mind, the sea elephant they've got an entire civilization at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, below the silt level. With that in mind, they grab a human and take them underwater, never clued in what the problem was. So the first number of times, they get a human down to their level, and oops, not always their football. Anyway, what ended up happening was they couldn't figure it out. It's like these people keep dying. But then mankind turned around and built an air bubble. They built the deep sea bell. Okay. And the elephant decided, hey, that's a pretty good idea. So they grabbed one to start with and tried using it, which was great, and worked for a bit. Do understand, the deep sea bells that mankind developed only went down a couple 100 feet or so. Okay, which was fine from their end. The sea elephant took them down, just over a mile. Okay, almost a mile and a half. Took them underwater. Well, the problem was they'd run out of oxygen anyway. And then, of course, when they decided to try the deep sea diving suits, the pressure would shove the people up inside the helmet. Needless to say, it took a while for them to finally develop that blue and the blue gel that you saw in the movie The Abyss. The sea elephant designed that to actually stop humans from collapsing. Now, if you've ever heard of somebody that starts and they all of a sudden they start coughing up blue liquid, kind of a blue gel, that's that same stuff coming out of their lungs. Okay, it does work. But the sea elephant are a phenomenal group of people. They really are. Very wise, but I'll tell you, you watch The Abyss, what they show you there is actually not that far off the beaten path. Now, football's asking, are merfolk always in tropical places? And the answer is absolutely not. Okay, there are merfolk that live in the tropical, in the temperate, and in the Arctic. Okay. And by the way, they have a lot better chance to see at ice fishing than most people do. Of course, they can cut the ice off the bottom of an iceberg. You know, you'll find say the sea folk. Absolutely, there's a lot of them. Okay, a lot of different types. And I wonder if I know I've got it. It's just a question getting it open. Let's minimize that. And we got a whole pile of things open. Let's minimize that for just a moment and find out what I'm looking for here. Races. Where is that one? There we are. And we go here. Let's go MER. There. There we go. Now, and this is coming out in this little piece of information is coming out in the second printing of the Races of the Worlds. Look, I need this up. Okay, this is coming out in the second printing of Races of the Worlds. But what we've been talking about called the merfolk are the Whalen. Okay. And there are other races that are similar to them that are underwater. They did evolve underwater. Okay, there's a lot of races that I'm still working on. Now, going back here, Philip, the answer is yes. We are talking that blue gel we're talking about is a breathing gel. Okay, they pump it into your lungs, but it doesn't only pump into your lungs. Okay, it pumps into your lungs to make certain that they don't collapse. Okay, the last I knew, they were working on a complete transfusion that can be done to make it possible that will go right through the bloodstream, thereby stopping people from actually having and enabling them to stay underwater permanently. What do we got here? Henry goes, Philip, supposedly it's a liquid that is oxygenated enough to allow air-breathing humans to breathe underwater or breathe the gel. Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's the thing. I have experienced it. And I'll tell you, it is not fun getting it out of your lungs again. Ultimately, it's very similar. What you'll find, Philip's just saying it sounds like when Austin Powers was preserved in that orange red gel. Ultimately, what you'll find is a lot of the ideas that are proposed in science fiction movies and science fantasy are very real. Okay, they're based on very real things. And this is just another point towards the idea that everything is connected. Okay, so I mean, and this is something we've got to look at. Gordana, how you doing? Glad you could join us. In my case, my one son was already preoccupied. My other one was ill, so I ended up going back down to Wings. I went down on my own, but my youngest son paid for my dinner. I mean, it wasn't anything special as far as going a whole lot of places, but then I'm really not that complicated. I don't think anyway. But he was, my youngest son was absolutely adamant. He says, I wanted to go with you, Dad. But he says, I'm just not up to it. So I mean, to me, and it really does boil down to, for me, family is everything. Okay, it really is. And this is why if I get called away, I'll all of a sudden go, I gotta go deal with this. Because family is first. Now, with that in mind, I've mentioned this to you guys before. This chat room is very much like a family to me. And with that in mind, I think it works out to 80%. As a matter of fact, and let me just do a double check here. Where do we go? All right. Whoops. Maybe I should go to I instead. Jay, what do you think? Okay, we have here 5, 20, 70, 80. Yeah, 80% of my net profit, of the net profit for Inner Voice Enterprises, which, by the way, will be opening an actual publishing department in the very near future. 80% of my net profit will be going back to either staff or the people that are, or the customers or clients, the ones of you, for instance, that are buying stuff. I've got it all worked out on paper. Okay, where 80% of my net profit will go back out to the community. I've literally got 50% of it allocated to handle my word of mouth advertising. Okay, this is because, in my opinion, one of the biggest things I've always complained about, okay, is that, every other type of advertising gets paid for. Okay, I figured out how to track word of mouth and how to pay for it. Where are we here? Football's asking, can murdered people direct animals to catch the attention of the living? Absolutely they can. Okay, you got to remember, once somebody passes away, the ability to communicate with all living entities becomes available. It does take a little bit of time to figure out how. But because animals work on much more of an instinctive level, they're easier to communicate with. Cats are one of the best, the most adept at picking up the deceased. Okay, but yes, they can absolutely get them, get their attention. I've seen it happen where somebody that was murdered, okay, got contact with the family dog, and it was because of that connection that and I forget the name of the people involved. I do know it ended well in my eyes. The dog had liked everybody, was really, really nice. Okay. And what ended up happening is the guy got murdered, and all of a sudden the family dog got really, really angry, really vicious, if you will, with one close member of the family. Okay. When all was said and done, after the investigation was finished, it turned out that the close family member actually murdered the father. Okay. And it was because of that dog's behavior that everybody started looking at him. That everybody started going, what's going on? Now, football then asks, can the dead save animals and humans from harm? Absolutely. But what they don't so much save them as warn them of a problem coming in. Well, in all fairness, Gordana, they really are. And the reason I say it's not that they're more spiritual, it's that they're less cluttered with the fear and the greed that mankind has been trained. So they tend to look at things a lot more directly. By the way, not only can the animals be contacted by the dead, but so can the plants. Okay, I know this from a first-hand experience. Of course, frankly, and I don't expect you to believe this, frankly, I talk to the plants and the animals. So, I mean, for me personally, it becomes an issue of, I get along great with them. Too bad I have a tendency of killing off the plants. Not the animals. The animals seem to be a little more resilient. But again, this is a question of everybody being more connected. You're all connected in ways that you probably don't understand. Shade goes, well, dogs can hear frequency sounds that our ears cannot, like our vision, etc. Hearing is limited is limited cameras. Oh, hearing is limited. Cameras can see stuff our eyes cannot. And digital recorders hear stuff we don't. Absolutely. There are also pheromonal sniffers that will smell things that the average person won't pick up. Okay, this is kind of a necessity, but you got to remember, everything that every technology can work with, you can actually train yourself to pick up. Now, I do recommend not necessarily doing that. Hearing the subsonics is not always an enjoyable thing. Okay. Henry goes, my yard, I love plants. My yard is full of green stuff, and most of it isn't grass. There's an old saying that goes, grass, what is it now? Hay is for horses, straw is cheaper, and grass is free, as long as you get the right supplier. But no, when I was growing up, our lawn was a combination of green or yellow. Green from the grass, or yellow from the dandelions. We didn't make dandelion wine, so we never figured out that, never put to use what we could have done with it. But no, the nice part about it, when I look at this, some of the races, you'll find with many of the races I'm working on, that they're not all humanoid. Shade, I'll put that in perspective for you. Shade's just said, yeah, I think plants grow better if they're talked to. Don't know if that's true. Where it comes to talking, there was an experiment done I believe it was also done in Pennsylvania, where they took 3 rooms. Okay, the scientists took 3 rooms, all with identical, like with the same species of plants, all the same lighting, all the same watering and fertilization methods. The first room was a test room and was a marker. And what they did was all 3 rooms always got watered at the same time. They always got the same amount of light, the same amount of fertilizer. You get the idea. The first room, they didn't do anything more than that. Room number 2, they had people go in that were talking to each other, talking to the plants in a loving fashion, in a very friendly, uplifting fashion, playing soft, energizing music. Okay. And they had the lights, and so they turned the lights to a more comfortable level. And the plants grew like absolute wildfire, producing staggering amounts. Then they took the third room and they did exactly the opposite. They had people go in screaming at the plants, yelling at them how bad they were, how poor they were growing, fighting with each other. They had real angry music that was just pounding out, and they turned the lights up stupidly bright. The plants in the negatively charged room died. No matter how much they worked at it, they died. There was a second case where a farmer had a peach grove, and he let the trees grow their own way, but he took one small corner of it, and he'd go out every day, and he would, and the peaches that he was growing, they grew normally. Okay, he picked this one corner, and he went out, and with a half a dozen of the trees, he would talk to them really politely, ask how their day was going, pay real close attention to them, and talk to them in really positive fashion, positive, encouraging conversations. Then he went to the other end of the orchard and started screaming at a small group of plants. Okay, and a small group of the trees. Well, the standard trees, the standard grove, just grew normally. Okay, Then they turned around. The ones that he was talking nicely to flourished. They produced peaches that were almost double the size and double the volume. The ones he was screaming at didn't do a thing. They didn't produce at all. Okay. And where do we go? Whoop. Uh-oh. Football's going, onions took over our yard. How do you get rid of it? And then, and of course, go down a little, and Gordana goes, what kind of onions? You know, and of course, the nice part there, you know, of course, what, I mean, I understand you can have too many onions. It's like having too many zucchini. You know, I would, you know, I mean, you know, Gordon is just suggesting pull them out and sell them. Absolutely. I like the way that somebody did it. I saw it on Facebook the other day. Everybody was so worried about their lawn being green. And this one guy, he just didn't care. Right. And he ended up with a little bit of a problem. His front lawn ended up covered in dandelions. So the neighbors complained, and the city showed up and said, you know, you have this major problem with the dandelions. You have to do something about it. Now, understanding this guy didn't see a problem with the dandelions, he was told do something about it. So what does he do the next day? He puts a sign on his front lawn. Dandelions, you know, free dandelions, take all you want. Now, he did exactly what the court said, and therefore they couldn't do anything about it. Okay, the neighbors couldn't. But I figured that was a wonderful way around that little problem. You know, but yeah, we are looking at, is that the Spernock in here? I don't know. I think that's in this one. I'm just looking something up here. Nope, that's in book 2. And I don't have that open right now. But personally, Henry, I agree with you. See, if my immune system gets any stronger, I'm going to be in trouble. But, or not, I don't know. I got in trouble the other day. My son just looks at me and goes, you don't ever get ill. And I don't. I mean, I do have a problem. My heart stops, my lungs stop, you know. It kind of gets annoying. But, you know, nutrition is not my strong suit. I figure if it ain't moving, it's probably edible. Usually. But this being said, I'm kind of picky on that one. Not quite. you know, you know, the thing is, well, frankly, where it comes to standard illnesses, COVID included, I don't recall the last time I was ill with anything other than a heart attack or a stroke. You know, the closest thing I get to being ill is I clipped my toe the other day and almost tore the nail off it. That was not an enjoyable thing. But the fact of the matter is, the support you guys show each other, you may see what you're doing just a little bit of an issue here, i.e., my backyard's been overrun by onions. What do I do? And a couple of people pop up and go, here's an idea. It's that kind of support, that kind of interaction that we can capitalize on. Football. Technically, the answer is yes, but you got to get a lot stronger than the cats are. However, from what I gather, and double check with your local horticulturalist, from what I gather, if you're having trouble with playing with cats coming into your flower beds, for instance, get something called a roe, an ROE. Okay, and again, talk to your local horticulturalist because that's not me. But from what I gather, the row, if you put one at each end of the plant of the flower garden, and apparently they have a really nice flower. Okay, depending on the size of the flower garden, you might want one in the middle. But the row will apparently keep the cats out of the garden. Okay. Now, that being said, you gotta remember, cats on the whole look at humans as though you feed us, you take care of us, because that's the way I desire it. You know, if the fox statue is good, you know, I like statues in all fairness. Yeah, Shane goes, put a fox statue in your yard. I don't know, you know. What do we got here? You know, the nice part about it is with the assistance that everybody is giving each other. If you think of it this way, the more you focus on the positive things in life, the stronger things get. Okay. You know, the more strength is afforded to the positive side. And this is why I say, if you're reading something negative, make certain if you read an article that's negative, go out and deliberately seek out something of some article of something positive. Okay. Now, some of you have already received my newsletter. Okay, I've already received the newsletter, Positive Perspectives. Okay, if you look in it, hey world, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, and there comes Sandra. How's it going, Sandra? I trust your day's been going well. You know, the neat part about it, okay, is there's one section in there that I did put on bad news. I've got a sports section. I've got, you know, an entertainment center that is section that covers the sports, one that covers the bad news and the crime. You know, like pretty much every magazine. But you might find it a little different way of looking at it. And let me see here. I do have to find it, but this one. World, where are we? World is in the house, and therefore, this is the link to World, and this is where World Bigfoot Radio is. Okay, absolutely. Drop in. He's got some fabulous discussions and some phenomenal footage. Okay, drop in, have a listen. If you like what he's talking about, give him a thumbs up, and do subscribe to the channel. Not a problem there at all, world. I do, and this is pretty much one of the ways that I can reach out and go, here's a way of my saying thank you for showing up. Okay, because I really do appreciate it. What do we got here? Gordana said, have cat mint. You know, love watching all kinds of insects visiting. Yeah. And here I always saw mint as being green. But hey, what the heck? I'm not an horticulturalist. And I don't spend enough time in the garden to really count. Yeah, football goes. I stopped buying pepper spray when I got my hands when I got it on my hands and face. Yeah, unfortunately, pepper spray burns like there's no tomorrow. Okay. You know, I've heard of people doing some pretty horrendous things with that sort of stuff. It depends there, Shade. You gotta remember, the rise and fall of insects, mankind's paying attention to it, but this is a cycle. Okay, everything runs in cycles, and was a time when insects were a lot less than what they are today. There was also a time when dragonflies had like a 2 foot wingspan. Oh, world, I understand the whole idea of being way too busy. I run into that myself. Okay, there are times when I just can't make it in, or I'll try and be here and my throat will seize. And when that happens, it's like I'm done. I do my best to stay on top, but the nice little part about it is things are changing, and the more people pay attention to the way that the energy is running, the stronger things are going to get. I just saw a documentary today that shows that the sperm whales in the Mediterranean are starting to make a comeback. Same as the sea turtles. Okay, so people are actually paying attention. Well, the good yeah, Gordon's going. I'd make friends with cats, buy them treats. They will adopt you and poop somewhere else. Well, the truth is, you are right. Cats will not. They won't usually go in their own yard. But we had a cat when I was still married. We had a kitten. We'd let her out. She wanted to be outside all the time. But I kid you not, this little munchkin, she'd go outside for an hour or two. She'd come back to the door and she'd scratch to get in. Well, we didn't have a cat door, so you open the door and she'd run downstairs, use the kitty litter, and as soon as she was done with the kitty litter, she'd run back up and want to get back outside. Ultimately, you are right. My ex used to want a bird feeder, and I looked at her and I went, we're not getting a bird feeder. And she goes, but why? I love the birds. I said, probably do. I said, but the fact is, we've got five cats that are birders. They're proven birders. You put a bird feeder out there, you might as well ring the dinner bell. You know, yeah, no doubt. Got news for you, Henry. A person gets chili flakes on their fingers and licks it a little. They end up with an interesting little problem. It burns like the dickens. Okay. And yeah, given the cats have a tendency of licking their paws, they will stay out of the area pretty quick. The only problem is you got to make certain because chili flakes are very hot, and if you put too many of them around your plants, if they're right near the plants, you'll burn the roots. Yeah, football's just going. Was the duck that came to the door looking for a meal? No, that was my cat. All he wanted. And the cat itself, all she wanted to do was come in and use the washroom, and then she'd go outside, but she wouldn't go outside, and she wouldn't go to the washroom outside. I mean, talk about a little over, over focused on being civilized. Mind you, I still think the weirdest one that I ever saw with an animal is there's a pedestrian crosswalk near my place. And I kid you not, there were a bunch of people lined up to go across the pedestrian crosswalk. Well, there was all kinds of traffic, so they hit the button, and the light blinks. Okay, so you can go across. You know how a pedestrian crosswalk works. Well, this crowd of people started to go across. And I kid you not, I would not have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. I watched this one seagull lands on the end of the crosswalk, walks across the pedestrian crosswalk. And of course, the cars had to wait because he wasn't quite as fast as the rest of the people. He got to the end of the pedestrian crosswalk and takes off and flies away. And I'm looking at this going, chap, it is going to take you forever to get across the city. Okay. But it was the weirdest thing to watch a duck and to watch a seagull pull that off. But again, when I talk about being connected to everybody, watch the way you treat your animals. You treat your animals properly, and they will treat you properly. Yes, they've got a little bit of problem with social manners, but so do a lot of people I know. Okay, but the more you treat your animals properly, they will remember. And there's a lot of brilliant videos out there on YouTube that I've watched, especially recently, with people being reunited with animals that they raised, or animals they dealt with in public. Like while the animals were in the wild. Like a friend of mine ended up adopting, and well, more to the point, the grizzly bear adopted my friend. Yeah, Sandra's going deer cross with the military at crosswalks at the base here. Yeah, it's safer to do that. Unfortunately, educating them can be a little bit of a challenge. But I will tell you, when you're dealing with animals, like every time I come out the front door, I've got little birds, and you guys can hear them periodically outside my window here. I talk to them when I come outside. Okay, the quail are absolutely brilliant for me. Yeah, Shay goes, I seen a vid of a bear walking in and out of the store stealing food. Well, who's going to argue with the bear, really? you know, Yeah, Gordana goes, one seagull was dying. I didn't know. The other was next to it. I offered some bread, some water to the weak bird, but that didn't take it. It was at the beach. Yeah. It is unfortunate. We had a quail that had the same problem. Okay, somebody, I don't know if it was hit or if it just got old. But, they are, my brother years ago when we were kids he went out on to deliver papers. He came home with a seagull in his paper bag that had been wounded, nursed it back to health and let it go. Mind you, my brother was one of these really weird people that would actually sit there and pet a bumblebee. I watched him do it. The bumblebee would land on his hand, and then my brother would sit there and just gently pet the thing. Okay. Animals are a wonderful group of people. It's like I tell people, if you've got a pet, basically you're dealing with a four-legged fuzzy kid. We used to do the same thing. My wife and I had two sets of rats. Okay. All four of them, like we got two different sets of two. All four of them were rescue rats. And it was great. This is why I used to tell people, I used to have a bumper sticker that literally said, the more people I meet, the more I like my cats. Ouch. Yeah, football's going. We had a white dove show up for a week until the big birds attacked it. I remember seeing one where a poor little sparrow was being harassed by bigger birds. And I kid you not, a flock of crows descended on the bigger bird and chased it away. Okay, this is animals working together. Yeah, see, animals are far more aware of life and death than what people think. Okay, and yes, they do lament. They do mourn the passing of their loved ones, just like many people mourn the passing of theirs. Okay, I've seen animals that literally will sit there and they just won't leave a dying person or a dying friend. They will sit there. Well, this is what I mean, football. You've got nice animals and you've got mean ones. You've got nice people, you've got mean ones. You've got nice off-worlders, you've got mean ones. There is no single race. Okay, there is no single race that you can say all of them are this way inclined. If there were, then you could have a major problem. Okay, I saw a video on YouTube one day that showed a wolverine coming into a small town, and you didn't see him kill it, but you heard the blood curdling scream of the guy the wolverine went after. And later there was a news report that this guy had been killed in his own home by a wolverine. Okay, and the only reason they knew it was a wolverine is because the neighbor had videoed it going in. Shade's going. I used to feed and pet a wild chipmunk, named it Speedy. He used to come to my porch and squeak and ask me to go outside for sunflower seeds. I got a buddy of mine that does the same thing. Okay. Um, and for me, of course, every fall for the last 3 years, okay, right outside my office window here, I've got this one squirrel, late summer, early fall. He'll come over and he'll chatter at my window until I look up. And I kid you not, the guy will be sitting there with a nut in his hand, in his hands. And as soon as I look at him and say, nicely done, he takes off again. It's the weirdest setup, but I love it. You know, these are just ways of, I knew of one person, she'd walk by a plant, and in this one particular plant, and it used to have really curled up leaves. But every time this woman walked into the room, the leaves would open up. Okay, it was just weird. No, football. If there's one thing that I'm not known for, is giving people approval, just to make them feel better. If they do something worth being recognized, certainly. You know, but I've always held, and this is what I tell people: whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter to me. Okay, I made the mistake of underestimating a woman one day, once. Swore I would never do it again. Okay, and it wasn't in a bad way. It was just I underestimated strength and determination. You know, but this is why I tell people I'm very much an old dog. Okay, in this world, I see the good, the bad, and the neutral. Absolutely. But I only see two genders. Technically, I see three. Once in a while, you'll have somebody that is born both male and female. Okay. But that's the only three I bother with. The rest of them, I don't care. Okay. To me, it doesn't matter what you relate to. I take a look at the animals and I see how well they deal with people. Like I was walking down the mall the other day, and this little dog, all of a sudden, rushing out of nowhere, and runs his head up against my shin. So of course, I look down and I'm like, "What?" Okay, so I bent down to talk to him, and the owner goes, "That little dog never goes near anybody." I said, "Well, I don't think he's having a problem getting near me, right?" The reality of it is many people. Oh, many people really underestimate the impact that their mood can have on the people and the animals around them. and the plants for that matter. Those are always handy. Deer will, and animals will help. There is no question there at all. You just have to treat them like decent people. You think about it. Animals have heightened natural senses. It's because their logical brain has not got in the way, has not become a problem. They will sit there and help each other. I've seen videos all over the place of that happening. What I'm also starting to look for, and this is something that I'm going to absolutely be adding to positive perspectives. It's these issues of, here's who stole what, who ripped off what. And for those of you that have already received a copy of it, you'll find out just how extensive my sports section and my crime section is. Okay, but I will be looking at adding articles and what have you. Probably not that long to start with, right? With the positive things that are happening, because I'll tell you, there are way, way, way more nice people in this world than there are creeps. Way more nice people. I just happen to luck out with the number of people in this chat room that are absolutely brilliant where it comes to the interaction. I could be saying that just to draw more people. Honestly, I'm reclusive. If I didn't like people, I don't go near them. And it's pretty black and white that way. What have we got here? Henry goes, my yard is also full of birds, all kinds. I counted 10 different species at one time. Or would it be races? I get the words confused. Okay, when we take a look at it, the species is an overall group. Okay, an overall package. Humans are a species. Okay, and this took me a while to piece together myself. But when you get your African Americans, your so-called First Nations, your Chinese, your Japanese, okay, your Middle Easterners, and even your Aussies, these are different races. It's when you take a species and they have another cluster of similarities, whether it's customs or physical traits. And a lot of the time, their whole physical features will alter. Okay. Yeah, no doubt, World. I did come to one conclusion myself. World's just going, I'm a hermit too. Makes me hard to convince I should go speak at a conference. I find, and this is one that next year I'm doing my absolute best to be there. I've already started looking into prices. But I find if I'm going there to work, I don't have as big of a problem. Now, I will tell you with next year's, when I come down, I am going to bring some of the books I've got. And in that way, I can bury myself in the idea that I'm working and not just socializing. Okay, don't get me wrong. I've got nothing against talking to people. I just run into a problem if I can't keep my mind occupied enough. I pick up way too much. You're more than welcome there, Henry. From my standpoint, I used to, just going back to that for a second, I used to get really confused with the idea of race and species. Okay, I'd look at it and go, guys, you're not a different race, you're still human. And I was talking to a very learned individual, and he looks at me and he goes, you're talking species, they're talking race, and here's what we're referring to. Once he had it laid out for me, I'm like, okay. So, because my ex actually told me I was the one true racist she'd ever run into. And I looked at her and I went, you want to run that by me again? Because I do not see myself as racist. And she goes, well, think about it. She goes, everybody else goes, here's a skin color, here's an orientation, here's a place where you're living. And they pick that specific issue and go, that's wrong. You're a worse person for being there. Or their religious alignment. She goes, you look at everybody and go, you're all human, you're absolutely all twisted. And I couldn't really complain about it. It's like, well, you do have a point. But from my standpoint, I'm now looking at, and tonight I'm going to get a fair chunk done. Like I said, that's the newest one I just put to print. Tonight I go into heavy work in getting Believe in Your Job and Follow Your Dreams. Okay, from my standpoint, it's not the quantity I'm referring to, it's the quality. And this is why I look at that when I'm doing my writing going, it's got to be done correctly. Not, I'm going to do it just to make other people happy and just put it out. I did put out Races of the Worlds way too fast in a lot of ways. Okay, because in my opinion, it wasn't, looking back on it especially, it wasn't ready. But I am glad I got it done. It got things moving in the right direction. Now what I'm looking at is, let's see what we can do about showing you guys. And I mean, when I talk about showing, I'm going, this is the goal I've got. Here's the progress I'm making. Okay. Hopefully that will work as a shall we say, encouragement for you to do the same thing in your own world. Okay. As in, pick something you're not content with in the way your world is working. Okay, and decide that's being changed. That's the important factor. Alter the negative stuff, alter the energy flow of the negative things happening around you, and you'll find your life takes on a much different outlook. Okay. I mean, I'm quite happy with the turnout I'm getting. Now, get this. Okay. I've got a printer. It ran out of ink, and that was the whole holdup to it. I looked on the net trying to find a way to solve the problem. I could not find a way to get the ink pulled out of the printer, like the dead cartridge. So my other half, okay, as I mentioned, she is 100% blind. She goes on the internet and finds out how to do it, and then she talks me through extricating the old ink, and so I can put in a new one. Okay, pop the ink in, get it home, pop the ink in. I just had to wait until the store was open. Brought the ink home, popped it in, fired up the printer. Not a hitch, but this is my technological capability. I can see with both eyes. She's 100% blind and can walk me through technical problems. I mean, it's just bizarre. But hey, from my standpoint, I'm not going to complain. But this is why I say, when you take a look at this, everybody has a strength, everybody has a weakness. I was talking to a chap the other day. Okay. Now, I am by no means a carpenter. If I actually drive a nail straight, it was an accident. Football goes, my work, generic toner, always spills on me and the printer. Well, look at the bright side. When I learned to do photography, I actually learned how to develop film with the old bins, where we used to put the toner, in a tray and submerge the negative in it. Okay, but yeah, generic toner. I've actually got a friend of mine that actually builds toners. Okay, that actually works with it. Tie-dye, well, yeah. We used to do tie-dye when I was a kid. And yes, in answer to the other thing that brings to mind, when we start talking about printing, I am going to be taking a couple of ideas I've got, and tell me what you think of this. Okay, I've got the pictures that are on there that I've got for Races of the Worlds. I did look at the possibility of developing a calendar, like a wall calendar or desktop calendar with the different pictures of the races. Again, coffee cups, that sort of thing. Derek goes, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Tie-Dye Factory. Yeah, I don't think that quite well. Mind you, the little girl with the blueberry, she didn't actually tie-dye, but she did change a neat color. But yeah, with the pictures I've got, as a matter of fact, I think I will deal with that and turn around and get that done as well. But not only am I looking at putting the prints up for grabs, okay, getting prints done up of the pictures, but I'm also looking at a coloring book. So do you feel better there, Derek? I mean, I've had days where I've had to sleep. You know, where I've had to sleep much longer than I like. But everybody's got their own strengths. I've been up since 4:30, and in case you couldn't tell, I'm not exactly winding down. But no, I'm looking at a number of different venues, a number of different possibilities. Yeah, Derek goes, my leg sent down a lot of. Oh, go great. Not, and this is fantastic. Derek. Hey, question: Do you ever sit down on the couch and prop your feet up above you while you're just resting, watching TV or what have you? Okay. For me, that worked really well to bring my leg down. For a while, my left leg was really badly swollen, and I started worrying about the normal thing. Oh, do I have a blood clot that's creating a problem? Then it finally dawned on me. Wait a minute, I've been dealing with this for decades. Oh, neat. World's going, I have to go and record a guest for this Sunday show. Werewolves of the Carpathian Mountains, Part 2. The Werewolf Trials. Have a great one, World. Glad you could join us. Yeah, that works. Yeah, I used to do it because I don't like having, well, I find if I'm on my bed, if I go to raise my legs on a pillow, if I'm on my bed, I don't stay still long enough for that to work. You know, which is why I went to sleep for a few weeks. I actually slept on the love seat. It was just long enough that I was forced to put my feet up, but I just stay there. Mind you, when we talk about sleeping, it just brought to mind something I saw on YouTube one day, right, or on Facebook. Somebody showed this whole line of people, and what they'd done is strung a line across the length of this vertical face. These people had taken their basically they were stretchers. They took them out on this face, mounted them to the edge of the cliff, and slept up there on sleeping bags. Now I don't know about you, but you wouldn't get me onto a cliff that has a 300-foot precipice, much less ask me to lay there and go to sleep. You know, Derek, that is an annoying disappointment. Um, One thing, absolutely, especially when it comes to something that aggressive. I do hope you're dealing with modern doctors at this point. They do have some aggressive methods that can help a lot. Oh, Derek, that's one thing I do miss. I used to live on the coast, and I used to love watching the thunderstorms roll in. Where I live now, there's no water even visible. Well, unless it's raining. Mind you, I still like watching thunderstorms. Derek, I don't think I have the address to your channel, do I? If not, would you be kind enough to get it to me and I'll be happy to post it here for you? Don't forget, if you do live streams, don't forget to include the time that you're actually on, and I'll be more than happy to post it up there for you. Again, it's just my way of saying thanks. Okay, because I'll tell you, if it wasn't for you guys and it wasn't for the communication, it wasn't for the encouragement of you guys, I may not have made it through continuing with this. About a year ago, I was very close to saying I'm just not doing it, and then I had a bunch of you guys all of a sudden pipe up and go, "No, we don't want you to stop." At this point, we're enjoying it. That was what kept me pushing through it. Let us see something here, just because I'm nosy. Let us see here. Hit refresh and see what pops. But the fact of the matter is, what I like hearing is people that are actually making headway. Not necessarily, oh, I'm going out and I did this to help people or did that to help people. Just where you've taken your life and well, no, not where you've taken your life. I hear about that way too often. I sure hope so. I mean, that would be nicer, Derek. I used to when I was working for the psychic lines. I actually in the 23 year, well, in the first 15 years I worked there, I had 13 suicide calls come to the psychic line. Of all the weird people to talk to, they end up talking to me, and they make a comment like, I remember one lass, she gets on the horn and she goes, "I'm so depressed. I've tried committing suicide 4 times." I says, "Yeah, I'd be depressed too." And she goes, "Wait a minute. What do you mean you'd be depressed too?" I said, "Well, think about it. You tried committing suicide 4 times. You still didn't get that right." I said, "That's just downright depressing. Go find a different hobby." Well, she phones me back about 6 weeks later and thanks me for talking her out of suicide. I'm like, I didn't talk. Yeah, I didn't tell her this, but I was thinking to myself, I'm not entirely certain I did that. The nice part about it is it really depends on how you look at the world. You can absolutely buy into all the negative things going on. You know, and as I've told people, you desire negative, there's a lot of newspapers, there's a lot of chat rooms, there's a lot of news outlets, be they on the net or mainstream radio, mainstream TV, where they will tell you all the depressing things going on in the world. And I do encourage you, if you want to find out about the depressing things, go and look for them. Myself, I just don't see the point. See, I've fought depression. I fought depression for a while, and then I just gave up and gave into it, and decided it's not worth the effort. But I did find a cure, an actual cure for depression. Okay, and it's one the doctors don't want you to know about because let's face it, this doesn't take a pill. If you've got access to music, period, whether it's a CD player, the radio, the internet, it doesn't matter. Find the fastest paced music you can find. Okay, the fastest paced dance music. Okay, crank it as high as socially acceptable and let it run. That increased music will break the depression. It will bring your spirits up. Even if you figure, I just want to stay bad and stay mad. I mean, Terry Clark did a song that goes, I just want to stay mad at you for a while. Okay. And you can do that by will tell you. Fast paced music will help break that mood. Okay. Whether you desire it to or not is almost an irrelevancy. Okay. But anything your body is creating, your body can correct. It does require, oh, yeah, football's going, animals love music. I've seen some, it's terrible with some dogs, though. You'll be playing this music, and all of a sudden you get this dog going, howling at the music. I'm thinking, like, that's just not quite what I had in mind. Okay. But the reality of the whole 9 yards is find a place that is upbeat, a place where they don't talk about how bad things are for you. Decades ago, I got the pleasure of meeting Rick Hansen. Okay, the chap that went around the world in a wheelchair. Fabulous man. It was brilliant. My parents were actually were running a little hotel in town here. Okay, so when he got into town, the media assumed he was going to be at one of the mainstream hotels. So the media was all out in front, waiting for Rick Hansen to come out. Okay, and the hotel staff will go, I'm sorry, he's not come out yet. They didn't tell the media that Rick Hansen wasn't staying there. Rick Hansen was staying in a very small little hotel, little motel. My parents ran it. It had a little pool, right? And Rick would spend his day in the pool. Media never came near him. And of course, the big hotel chain, they went, well, all the newscasters are out here filming our hotel. Let's take advantage of the free publicity. They did well. Rick got a chance to relax. But talk about a brilliant man. And what he basically said was, look at your strengths. Don't look at what you cannot accomplish. Look at what you can accomplish. Okay. I mean, this is the important factor. Derek's got here. Yeah. Gordon goes, my cats don't like heavy music, heavy metal. They like classic. Right. Derek says, I got a video of a squirrel I took from last week. It was eating a peanut. The squirrel was friendly and not scared of humans. Animals are a phenomenal thing, and you'll notice if you're relaxed, you'll get a better response out of them. Sadly, humans, when you relax, seem to think that it's a ploy to get something from them. And for me, it is. If I'm relaxed around people, what I'm aiming to get is peace and quiet. In other words, I don't require the stress. I don't require the drama. Lord knows I see enough of it. But what I'm aiming at doing is making absolutely certain that when we're looking at, when you look at the news, there's a lot of negative things. And I do agree the negative things should be reported. But can we keep it to a minimum, to a minimum blurb, put it in the back of the newspaper or in the back of the magazine? Okay, there's lots of places you can get depressed if you'd like. Okay, there's lots of ways you can get disappointed in people and the way they treat each other. Okay, I just don't see the point in adding to that. So this is why I say, if you read something negative, make certain you read at least 2 things positive per 1 thing negative. If you're going to repost something negative, be certain to repost 2 things positive for every 1 negative. It's a way of keeping the balance so that you've got a positive outlook. Okay. And where did it go? I was going to show you this last week, actually. I should drop that off behind. Where did I put it? Oh, sure. I'm looking for what I needed. There it is. My bookmarks came in today. And the reason I had to do that is because that's what I've got on each of the bookmarks. Okay, that's on the back of it. Okay, and the reason for it is real simple. I'm a firm believer that those are the four most useful, most dominantly positive words in combination in any language I've run into. So every one of the books I send out, and like every time I send a book out, one of these gets thrown in it. On the back of it is this, on the front of it rather, is this. Okay. And again, this is because it was this book that literally changed the way my life was running. Gordana goes, in summer I have coffee at the deck. One morning I didn't go out and Chipmunk came inside through the kitchen hallway. Comes in through the kitchen and hallway and finds me. He looked like a human standing on back legs and hands up. Almost asking where are you? I've got a friend that has the same problem. Derek goes, the defense minister of Canada came out and said there are 5 countries actively involved in reverse engineering UFO craft. USA, Canada, England, New Zealand, Australia. It is, but here's the neat little thing. That's not all of them. That I'm aware of, Russia and Germany, and did we have... Oh, Russia, Germany, and China are also involved in the same idea. And I think France is, but France may be in conjunction with another country. That ought to be neat. Derek's just saying Dave Scott, as a matter of fact, and I know I put his link up here earlier, but we're going to put it up again anyway. As a matter of fact, we're going to put it up quite intentionally. So here is the link to get the Dave show. Drop in, give it a listen. If you like the show, absolutely give him a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. Now, the nice part about this is this kind of connection that is so important. The funny thing there, Derek, Derek says these 5 work together though as a team. I have no doubt about that. And this is why I tell people, if you put down your weapons and you start working together, we can make phenomenal headway. Oh, rest assured they can deny it. And some of them will. Somebody's going to come out in all likelihood and go, no, that was misquoted. Or whatever. But the reality of it is huge news. Okay. And eventually they will figure it out. Personally, I've got no problem with them reverse engineering things. It would be nice if they would actually utilize the information I've got, because there's other stuff that isn't there. Gordana goes, yeah. Chipmunk had peanut, me coffee at the deck. This is why I say, people are doing this all over the world. Okay, there are more people that are actually starting to look at focusing on the positive things. And I will tell you, this is going to change the outcome of the future. It's going to change the path we're on. But it is up to each and every one of you, and myself included, to do what we can to make this world a better world. A world without all the stress, without all the anger and the fear. I absolutely agree with you there, Henry. If people would, and they will eventually, virtually every civilization I've run into has had the same problem. Okay. But mankind in virtually every corporeal race I've run into had the same issue. We find it easier to kill people, to live in fear, to control people than to cooperate with them. I'm telling you, from my standpoint, it's going to be an issue of I'm just done with the anger. I'm done with the fear of it. And this is why I've started coming out a little bit more readily. And of course, the issue that, I'm looking at the writing and what have you that I'm doing, going, I've got to make this work a little bit more efficiently. And I cannot do that unless I come and step up to the spotlight and go, here I am. That's just the reality behind it. Now, what I'm looking, I wonder, I'm just very curious at this point, which is usually an offsetting thing for me, but let's see what I can do here. There we are. That one there. Now, go there and we go to there. And we go 11:30. Yeah. Okay. So what I was checking into was how much it was going to cost me to get to Texas. Because in October, I'm planning on going down to Texas. Right. That being said, I will be making. I've got the money. I can actually do it now. I'm just not dumb enough to actually try and do that just yet. Well, the funny part there, Henry, I do agree with you. Okay. Oddly enough, here's the funny thing. Like Henry's going, greed and fear are still king right now. Absolutely. But with your guys' assistance, we can start changing that. Well, that's no problem. I get along with them anyway. Football just goes lots of vampires in El Paso. Yeah, but that's okay. I get along with the guys. They just know that biting me is a bad idea. I bite back. But I was just looking my trip to El Paso I can make, and I know it's going to cost me less to make the run to Las Vegas next year. And again, it's funny. I went in just literally today to check the price to El Paso. I'm talking to the guy, and he goes, "Yeah," he said, "I'll make sure it's as short a run as I can make." So that I'm not in the air. I was trying to look it up, and they're like, "It'll be 36 hours to make the run." I'm like, I am not taking 36 hours to get to Texas. I could dang near drive there in that, even getting lost. So, I mean, from my standpoint, like I was just noticing here, Gordana goes, perpetual war, perpetual profit. Well, there's a problem with that. Okay, you keep a war going too long, and sooner or later, people get fed up with it. Okay, and we got to remember, the people that are in the control position right now are far outnumbered by the people that are not. I like the way they showed it in A Bug's Life. Okay, they said, there's no real difference between the grasshoppers and the bees, or in the ants rather. But grasshoppers are absolutely more powerful in a lot of ways than what the ants were. But like the guy says, he says, one of them against one of us, who cares? But you take 100,000 of them against one of us, and we're in trouble. And this is the thing about unification. When people, on the whole, start noticing what kind of community we can have in a positive fashion, Yeah, I understand that side of it, Derek. When I was growing up, and anybody that knows BC and specifically Vancouver Island, back in the 70s, it was a 4-hour drive from Comox to the south end of the island, to Victoria, unless my mother was driving. If my mother was driving, we'd do it in 2.5. You know, myself, I can get lost on a one-way street. So I just don't go there anymore. Now it's a case of I'm going someplace, like I told the travel agent. When I go to book it, I'm going to get the wheelchair assistance. I can walk, but I get lost way too fast. And once I've got the wheelchair, I can sit in it and wait for the plane, and that's the end of that. Problem solved. But rest assured, I am going to, now that I've decided between myself and my executive assistant, my other half, my editor, call it whichever one you will. Absolute godsend in a lot of ways. Okay, we have decided to become a whole lot more active on the public view in order to start really pushing the idea of encouraging everyone to focus on the things you can do with your life, the goals you can achieve, not the ones that were left behind, not the failures that you may think are failures, okay, but about the things that you are accomplishing. This is why I'm looking at getting a few things sorted around. Okay, now, am I perfect? Absolutely not. Okay, do I believe wholeheartedly that everything I can do, you can do? Not necessarily the same skill. Okay, I wouldn't trust me with a wrench. Okay, I'm lucky if I can get things to work, mechanically speaking. Okay, but if I really put my mind to it, I might be able to. I know computers don't work that way. I've been trying to figure computers out since 1979. From my standpoint, I'm looking at the world going, it's time we bond together, that we all really pitch in and make the effort to turn the tide of where this world is going. We are at a break point. Society is going to either figure out how to work together and how to make this a more positive world, or they're going to blow themselves back to the dark ages. Absolutely correct, Henry. Henry's just reiterating, we're all good at different things, but we're all equally deserving of love and respect. Every individual I've ever spoken to when we've gotten onto that topic has said the same thing. All I desire is to be treated as an equal, to be respected for my viewpoint. And that only works if you respect the people you're dealing with. And this is why I'm very blunt about it. This is where my boundaries are. This is what I believe. This is why, as Positive Perspectives grows, it's never going to be a charged magazine. You'll never buy a subscription to it because I'm not charging for it. Okay, I will advertise through it, but I will not charge. Now, that said, I will end up making the money back, making my investment back. There's no problem there. Okay, but everything, and it's been said before, I remember it being said once a long time ago, where the person literally came out and said, all that I do, thou shalt do, and more. Well, this still applies. Everything I'm doing right now, I'm in better financial shape than I ever was when I was working full time. Way better. Okay, and like my dad said, if we were all the same, this would be a very boring world. Okay, because I don't know about you, but I know some of you have talents that I don't think even you're aware of. Okay, will I one day, be putting together a poetic anthology? Now, the stupid part here is this. Okay, I got one of my poems printed, but what they did was they turned around and charged. They charged me, and I know looking at it now, it was a stupid move. when I got my book put into an anthology, in my poem put into an anthology. Anthology was something, I'm guessing, if you think 100 pages, wonder if it's visible. I'm just looking to see if the poetic book is there. And by the look of it, not readily. But you think about a 200 page poem, a 200-page book of poems with 400 poems per, or 4 poems per page. Okay. You take a look at it. We go 400 times, or sorry, not 400, cancel. 4 times 200. Now, they published this, and I had to buy a copy of the book. Okay. But to tell that, buying a copy of that book, okay, they charged me, first of all, to have my poem included. Okay. And we're talking about back in the 80s. They charged me $75 to have my book included. Well, if you take that, why would I do that? 200 times 4 times 75. Now, they said it was a real good deal, and I was stupid enough to believe them. Now, you think about it. At every poem, you're getting paid $75 per poem. Put 4 into a book. Okay. Put 4 into a book, and you get 200 pages. Well, I'll tell you, I just worked it out. They made on the printing of that book, it cost them, or it didn't cost them, they got $60,000 to put their book together. Okay, now, yeah, they certainly turned around, they sent me a copy of the book. Okay, but I'm telling you, when I'm printing my own books, okay, I look at what it cost me now, and I'm thinking that was insane. But I did it willingly. They were upfront about what was going to cost. Gordana is just going. Gordana goes, my tuxedo cat talks with a male cardinal. He becomes submissive and talks back to the bird. That's odd. But animals will talk to each other quite readily. By the way, so do people a lot of the time. But animals, at least, are very, very open. They're very honest about it. The nice part about it, when you're dealing with the world, the more focused on the positive side of things you are, the better things are going to come. Okay, and yes, I do have every intention on turning around and adding more to what I'm working on. As I'm sitting here, I'm coming up with all kinds of different things to work on. But with this in mind, guys, we're just hitting the 2-hour mark. I do thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your time with me. If you liked the video, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And absolutely share the daylights out of it. Now, today is Tuesday, I believe. Hope so. I'm just double checking. And yeah, today is Tuesday. So I will be back again tomorrow. Okay. Until then, and that'll be at 4:30 Pacific unless something goes sideways. Okay. With that in mind, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.